Well, it is good to be back. So Wildcat Health and Mental Wellness, we follow the calendar for parent cats, and we started this a few years ago. It basically came out of need. Um, just so you parents know, and students who are joining us, this is for you guys. So we can bring in speakers, we can address any content that you want. Just let us know, email us at our Gmail or through Facebook. We get those messages too. So the next meeting, we're looking to, and this worked well last year, we brought in the academic advisor, Kelly Angelos, to talk about LHS curriculum and how to choose courses for the next semester, which would be fall. And then we also brought in Amy Belstra, who's the director of the college resource center at LHS. So she talked about college planning, and it's changed so much even from last year. So now all the test optional, and then obviously we're dealing with COVID. So we're looking to have them join us next month. So once we kind of finalize those plans, we will push out the invitation through Parent Cats and our health and mental wellness databases. So yeah, let us know if there's anything that you want us to cover. So we are going to be recording this tonight. We've had several requests for that. We'd like to honor that. So any questions you have, you know, it'll be in the chat, but we'll address it. So please don't be shy in asking questions. I just mentioned the YFC Thrive app. So anyone who is joining us, just joining us, you can take a look in the chat to see the Youth and Family Counseling's website and learn more about that. They've got a pilot program right now. Any student who's in need of support, maybe going through stress, mild anxiety, you can work with a counselor and they'll give you support. I also want to offer Stacy Nevins. You can wave, Stacy. She is offering support. One-on-one conversations. What would you like to do, Stacy? For anybody who maybe your student is feeling a little anxiety with transitions or going back to school, but Stacy is such a great resource. She and her student have also had experiences and great experiences and no resources for programs. So she would love to talk with you. And in a bit, Jill Weber from Center for Thriving will be joining us. So Angela will let us know when she's ready. But I'm just going to start talking here about how we kind of came up with tonight's topic. I'm sure everybody else felt this, but there's this grayness, you know, at the end of 2020, and not only with the pandemic, but just I kind of was waking with this negativity or this like heaviness in my chest that I hadn't really felt before. It could be the cultural climate, the societal character that we're seeing on social media. But anyway, I personally had to take a long break from just watching the news and social media, and I'm still taking a break. But when we turned into 2021, I was starting to pull out of it, feeling a little more revived. I talked with my son who studies human performance about this, you know, want for change, and talking about goal setting with my girlfriends. And he was saying that, you know, in order to create change, it takes three things: motivation, methods, and mindset. And usually at the turn of the year, people have the motivation, but to reach your goals, you know, you have to create change, which means you have to take action. So a lot of people think that the motivation is enough, but they may not have a plan for after on how to take action or identifying specific methods or things to do to create that change. So to plan for accountability. So then in discussing tonight's meeting, you know, Stacy, Angela, and I were talking about just how we're all kind of feeling that. And Stacy's a fitness instructor, so she works directly with goal setting and with her clients. And Angela, we were talking about just this funk, you know, and let's start it off right. Let's start it off in a good place. with positive mindset,
Yeah.
and creating that. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and creating that change for
Yeah.
ourselves. So just having hope starts with us, right?
Well, we started talking about things we were doing and what was maybe working for us. And so that's kind of why we wanted to bring this to you guys. And we were going to start because Joy mentioned like having a positive mindset. And we were like, and we've done some meditation before in the past. And so, because everybody is pretty crazy and chaotic and stressed, and we just really wanted to kind of start with setting a positive intention for our meeting tonight, an intention of gratitude, and like Joyce saying, like take our headspace and get it out of that. And so I do meditation and just a little bit about it, and we're all in our own spaces and nobody can even see any of you, so this is so great. You can do whatever you want, get comfy or just sit in your chair. And so I'm just going to read you a little thing. Studies on how meditation or loving kindness affects the brain show that Tibetan monks who had over 10,000 hours of loving kindness meditation practice had strangely secure neural circuits for self-understanding and empathy. They displayed a higher degree of self-contentment and inner joy than non-meditators or non-practitioners of loving kindness meditation. So to start our meeting about growth mindset, we're going to practice meditation. Hi, Jill. We're a little behind, Jill. You're perfect. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, you're good. Okay, so you stay muted. All right. So everyone just kind of close your eyes and sit comfortably. And we're just going to say this 3 times. And I tell this to my kids all the time. They're like, how can you just say it and it happens? And I'm telling you, the more positive things you put in your brain, the more positive you see every day, things turning around. And boy, do we need a lot of positive. So we're just going to say, may I be happy. May I be safe. May I be free. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be free. May I live with ease. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be free. May I live with ease. And take a deep breath. See, doesn't that make you feel good? It makes me feel good. So kind of piggybacking on what Joy was saying, I found like I was like having like Groundhog Day existence in my life. Like that's kind of like, I call it COVID brain. Like you didn't even know what day it is. And so it was pretty bad. So I hope tonight we can help you guys create some change and get unstuck and a path forward. So I think we're just going to go straight into, we're going to watch a short TED Talk about growth mindset, because I think it gives everyone a really good basic understanding in like 9 minutes. So we don't have to really talk about it, and it really just gives us a great understanding. So I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. Okay.
Today, I want to tell you about the power of yet. I learned in high school in Chicago where students had to pass 84 units to graduate. And if they didn't pass, they got the grade not yet. I thought, isn't that wonderful? Because if you fail, you're nowhere. But if you get the grade not yet, you're on a learning curve. Not yet gave them a path into the future. And not yet also helped me understand a critical experience early in my career. To figure out how kids coped with challenge, I gave 10-year-olds some problems that were a little too difficult for them. Some of them reacted in a shockingly positive way. They said things like, "I love a challenge," or "I was hoping this would be informative." They understood that their abilities could grow through their hard work. They had what I call a growth mindset. But other children, for them, it was tragic, catastrophic. From their more fixed mindset perspective, their core intelligence had been tested and devastated. Instead of the power of yet, they were gripped by the tyranny of now. So, what did they do next? In one study, after a failure on a test, they said they'd cheat next time instead of study more. In another study, they found someone who did worse than they did so they could feel better. And in many studies, we found they run from difficulty. Let's look at how that looks in the brain. Mosher and his colleagues measured from the brain as kids encountered errors. Processing the error shows up in red. If you look at the fixed mindset brain on the left, nothing is happening. But if you look at the growth mindset brain on the right, it's on fire with yet. They're processing the error deeply, learning from it, and correcting it. So, how are we raising our kids? Are we raising them for now or for yet? Are they focused on the next A or test score instead of dreaming big, instead of thinking about what they want to be and how they want to contribute to society? And if they are too focused on A's and test scores, are they going to carry this with them into the future? Maybe because many employers are coming to me and saying, we've already created a generation of young workers who can't get through the day without an award. So, what can we do? How can we build that bridge to yet? First, we can praise wisely. Our research shows that when we praise kids for the process they engage in, their hard work, their strategies, their focus, their perseverance, they learn that challenge seeking, they learn that resilience. Praising talent, praising intelligence makes them vulnerable. There are other ways of rewarding yet. We teamed up with game scientists at the University of Washington to create a math game, Brain Points. The typical math game rewards right answers right now, but not brain points. We rewarded process and the learning curve, so effort, strategy, and progress. The Brain Points game created more sustained learning and greater perseverance than the standard game. And just the words yet and not yet after a student has a setback, we're finding creates greater confidence and greater persistence. We also can change students' mindsets directly. In one study, we taught students that every time they pushed out of their comfort zone to learn something really, really hard and they stuck to it, the neurons in their brain could form new, stronger connections. And over time, they could become smarter. Those who learned this lesson showed a sharp increase in their grades. Those who did not showed a decrease. We have done this with thousands of students now across the country with similar results, especially for struggling students. So let's talk about equality. In our country, there are groups of kids who chronically show poor performance. And many people think that's inevitable. But when educators create growth mindset environments steeped in yet, equality can happen. Let me just give you a few small examples. One teacher took her Harlem kindergarten class, many of whom could not hold a pencil for the first month, through daily tantrums. She took them to the 95th percentile on the National Achievement Test. That same teacher took a 4th grade class in the South Bronx, way behind. She took them to the top of New York State on the state math test. That teacher is a Stanford grad, and she's here today. And another Stanford grad, a PhD student, Stephanie Freiberg, now a professor, went back to her Native American reservation in the state of Washington. She transformed the elementary school in terms of a growth mindset. That school had always been at the bottom of the district, at the bottom of the state. Within a year to a year and a half, the kindergartners and first graders were at the top of the district in reading and reading readiness. That district contained affluent sections of Seattle, so the reservation kids outdid the Microsoft kids. And they did it because learning a growth mindset transformed the meaning of effort and difficulty. It used to mean they were dumb, and now it means they had a chance to get smarter. Difficulty just meant not yet. Last year, I got a letter from a 13-year-old boy. He said, "Dear Professor Dweck, I read your book already." I like the fact that it was based on sound scientific research. That's why I decided to test out your growth mindset principles in 3 areas of my life. As a result, I'm earning higher grades. I have a better relationship with my parents. I have a better relationship with the other kids at school. I realize I've wasted most of my life. Let's not waste any more lives, because the more we know that basic human abilities can be grown, the more it becomes a basic human right for kids, all adults, to live in environments that create that growth, to live in environments filled, overflowing with yet. Thank you.
Doesn't that just get you excited? It gets me so excited. Okay, so now that we introduced this concept to everyone, I'm gonna put this in the chat, if I can figure out how. Hold on, I'm sorry. I may have to stop sharing my screen for a second. I should have worked this out. I'm going to put this in the chat for everyone, and you can either just view it off the screen, or so now that you have the link. Oh God, this was my fear. I'm so sorry. Oh, I can't find my, that's great. I'm so sorry, everyone. I lost my screen, my tab. Here it is. Okay. It's going to be on the screen, and you can just read through and write it down on a piece of paper if you need to, but you do have the link. So if you'd like to go on your computer, and we're going to give you this really quick quiz, because now that you just learned a little bit, but you don't have a ton of information, we want to quiz where you are. So The first question is, you're born with a certain amount of intelligence and it isn't something that can be changed. Do you agree, maybe, or you disagree? I'll just put maybe. Intelligence can increase or decrease depending on whether or not you spend time exercising your mind. You can learn new things, but you can't change your underlying level of intelligence. Learning new things can increase your underlying intelligence. I'm going to say maybe to that. Talent is something you're born with, not something you can develop. If you practice something for long enough, you can develop a talent for it. People who are good at a particular skill were born with a higher level of natural ability. People who are good at a particular skill have spent a lot of time practicing that skill regardless of natural ability. Okay, so we wanted you to do this at home because you can see your results in private. No one's going to see your results. But I am going to take this time because now we're going to have our expert, Jill Weber, explain some of this to us and get into the nitty-gritty of it all. I do want to just say really quick who Jill is, because we are so fortunate to have her this evening. She is a PhD in Communications and Arts and Sciences, is president and founder of the Center for Thriving, an organization dedicated to expanding human potential through communication and well-being education. CFT serves individuals, academic institutions, and organizations across the country to empower people to prosper, flourish, and grow. Jill is also a clinical assistant professor in the College of Health Sciences and Pathology and director of communication for the Office of Graduate Medical Education and the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Peoria, where she leads initiatives to improve physician communication and well-being. That is a mouthful, Jill.
It is.
We are so happy to have you, and I'm going to throw it over to you. And if you want to get started with our people, we have several people listening tonight. I know it's hard to tell, but we have 16 people that have logged on. So
Awesome. I see the participant list. And so thank you all so much for being here. I'm actually, so I work remotely with the medical school and I'm actually in Libertyville. So I am perhaps right down the street from many of you right now. And this is a great opportunity for me to just connect with the community because as Angela mentioned, I own my own business, but before then I was a professor. So I was a tenured professor at a women's college. I've been teaching primarily college students since 2002. And in 2017, really decided to make a big leap of faith. And I quit my job, which is a big deal when you have tenured. It's a pretty secure position, if you will. But I was seeing a lot of my students, really, really good, intelligent students that were just struggling with issues related to, for sure, fixed mindset. And just really just trying really hard to do well and just struggling with aspects related to their well-being. So I decided to try out a new experience. And now I've been consulting and teaching with a lot of different groups on issues related to growth mindset. For sure, that's the foundation. And just really these different strategies that you can use to help yourself thrive, which for me means to prosper, flourish, and grow. So growth mindset is the foundation of that, which is why when Angela said, "Can you talk about this?" I was like, "Oh yeah, heck." What is our time limit? So what I just wanted to do today is to share with you a couple of tools that you can use for yourself and for your kids, because I work with a variety of individuals in coaching and classes and then formal kind of classes. And I'll tell you, the teenagers that I speak to, actually every group I speak to, but the teenagers for sure and the college students often come to my classes or talk with me during my presentations and say, "Will you please share this message with my parents?" So I feel like this weight of responsibility to come here and say, like, here's what I'm hearing from your kids. Now, I am a recent step parent as well. So of a 5 8 and 9-year-olds. So I've really got to practice these skills with a younger set. And so I am confident that you folks, with even just the little bit of information that Carol Dweck gave you in that video, can really help to make positive improvements and take some of the stress and anxiety, ideally, off of your plates, off of your kids' plates, with some pretty simple strategies. And
Well,
so,
and Jill
yeah,
and I were talking.
yeah.
My son, who's a sophomore, walked in the room and was like, "Oh yeah, I know who Carol Dweck is. We talk about her book at high school." So like our kids know about this. I mean, and I was shocked he wouldn't know. I really can't believe he remembered it. So
Yeah.
they know this stuff.
Yeah, our 7-year-old was in a summer camp and they did growth mindset yoga. I mean, and that's part of it is because Dweck's research has just been so transformative in the lower levels, because the idea has been before they get stuck in a fixed mindset, what can we do to kind of intervene to help them learn that their intelligence can grow, that their skills can grow. And so that's part of what our goal here is today. So, Angela, would you like me to share some of like the growth mindset tool? Would that be a good?
Yeah, great.
Okay, because we want to take questions from you too. So obviously I can the talk at length on this subject, but what we really tried to do is to give some useful tools that you folks can use. So what I would like to do is I'm going to put a link right into the chat, which is some growth tips that I've provided. And there are tons of materials that you can look up online that you can use in order to learn more about a growth mindset. But my goal really for this document was to create just like five manageable tools that you can use to help with growth mindset. So I'm going to try and share my screen, and this document, the link will take you to my Google Drive where you can download this document. It's an infographic, just 5 simple ways, or simple and ideal in the ideal sense, to promote a growth mindset. But my goal here is really to help you folks feel a greater sense of confidence in talking about growth mindset, because as Angela said, most of your kids are probably already getting into the schools. 4 years ago, I developed a growth mindset curriculum for an honors high school. I mean, so it's already, if they're not already doing it at the lower levels in the elementary schools, the high schools are definitely making this a priority. And so the goal here is to increase your sense of confidence in talking about this, but also your sense of competence of those skills. So I just made this simple kind of handout that you're welcome to print out and download. And I've included some clickable links here because I know in this session, we can't give you everything, nor would we want to, it's too overwhelming. But just some little extra guidelines that you folks can use, extra help. Dweck's mindset book. I've included a link to her website, a great visual that I use to help me kind of use as my own assessment about if I'm in a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. And then I've also included a link for this concept called neuroplasticity. And Dweck kind of mentions it, she alludes to it in her talk. It's this idea that your brain is constantly growing and shaping. So we often used to think about brains as being like rocks, like this is the way we were born and came out, but we now understand them to be like clay. So working out, exercising helps to build new neural pathways. Sleeping, for instance, also helps. And so when people are able to see that they weren't just born this way, I guess there's the Lady Gaga song that's Born This Way, kind of a fixed mindset in some ways, but not meant in the same way. But in this idea, it's that you can learn and you can grow. So I've included, this research growth mindset for those of you who want that extra information to help yourself out. But then I also, my background's in communications, so I always think about how language shapes our reality and shapes our understanding. And so I've given a couple examples of different fixed mindset statements, like I'm not good at this, she's naturally skilled at that, by saying like someone was just born that way, this is too hard, I can't make this any better, I don't need feedback, I give up. All of things that I'll tell you, it breaks my heart that I hear from my 5-year-old who just started kindergarten, and he started kindergarten on remote learning. And, he starts class at 8:50, and sometimes by 9:30, I see him putting his head down on his desk. And so being able to try and reframe some of those messages for him, well, I guess first recognizing and then reframing has been something that has been a huge priority for me. And I will say that's actually our next tip to refine a fixed mindset, to encourage different language terms that you can use, like, I can get better at this, and here's how. She works hard, and that's why she's getting these outcomes, right? This may take some time, having some patience and self compassion as you are learning and growing, right? This idea, oftentimes, a lot of the people that I work with, I teach a whole class, well, a whole week of class about how to ask for and accept help. I see a lot of the college students that I work with, and for sure the medical residents and faculty that I work with, really have a hard time asking for and accepting help. My 9-year-old is already in a fixed mindset. And so we are working a lot with helping her to see that asking for help and accepting it actually helps you learn and grow. And so she values being perceived as being smart. And I know that Dweck talks a little bit in her video about labels and praise and what you're praising. She says praise wisely, but there's this whole concept of like they really want to be smart. We have a psychological, desire to be competent, and so being able to help them figure out how to get smarter is a really important skill.
Hey,
I don't
Kate,
expect you.
can
Oh,
I
go ahead.
ask you a question?
Yeah, please do.
Referencing back to like the quiz that we took, because
Yeah.
I know that this is something that I have had discussions with my husband about, is that, do you, like the questions were like, some people are just more talented, some people are this way.
Mhm.
And it's hard to get over, like, well, he's just not good at school, or he's not good at math, or, I mean, I even find myself saying that to my kids sometimes, like, I mean, can anybody learn anything with, if they put the effort in and they feel and they want to do it? I think it's hard as a parent to get over those things. And that's where a lot of the questions in the quiz. So
Mhm.
I'd love for you to kind of address that.
Well, and I really appreciated you answering maybe on a lot of those questions, because that's one of the critiques of the growth mindset. And this is actually Dweck talks about that it's been taken by a lot of groups and used as a you can do anything. And I'm an educator. I mean, I believe that we can teach people how to improve and be better. But there are some aspects, and there's plenty of research that shows that certain people's brains are born in certain ways that make them more inclined to certain sorts of subjects. Malcolm Gladwell has a book called Outliers, and he talks about all of these different factors that contribute to, for instance, why hockey players tend to be born, I think, in the months of or March and April. And the reason that they're so successful oftentimes is because they are right before the cutoff date. So they're a lot bigger and stronger than other, hockey players. So there definitely is research that supports that people have natural inclinations. And I know any parent that's had a child and watched their child be great with Legos, right? It's like, I didn't teach them to be great at Legos. They were kind of born this way. And that's where I think that the growth mindset can be problematic. And Dweck definitely talks about the false growth mindset, because there are some elements where people are just more inclined towards something. But I think what the growth mindset encourages, and this is what you can encourage as a parent, is that people can get better. So instead of just saying, I'm not good at math, and I see kids that are crushed, that get to college and are crushed by the school system up to that point, because there's been so many messages about how you're just not good at this. And then suddenly it's a different strategy that makes them realize, oh, I was struggling with math because of this. And when I use this different tool, it helps me to perform better. And I think that's really the heart of growth mindset. It's not just the effort, which is also another way that people have kind of mess this up a bit, but really giving your kids strategies and tools to help them figure out how to get through these difficult conversations, or how to get better, or situations, or how to get better. And that's where, again, I think everybody does a disservice by saying that, you are born, a very clean slate. The idea behind growth mindset is that you can get better, you can improve, and you can grow. And that's actually part of that next tip, is like reflecting on the process. If you can actually help your children to identify the strategies that they use that were effective, or the strategies they use that weren't effective, what you're doing is you're teaching them how to learn, you're teaching them how to grow. And that really is the essence of the growth mindset. It is about teaching them that they can learn, but also teaching them how to learn and encouraging them to put in that effort. And oftentimes, again, I think it's well intentioned. Some of these messages that, you're just not good at math, but as Dweck's research for sure shows, like there's plenty of examples of kids that were labeled as being poor at math that clearly succeeded with the right strategies, with the right tools. And I think that that's part of what growth mindset does. So that's a fabulous question. I'm glad you brought that up and that you were honest in your assessment by saying, well, yeah, that's a maybe component.
Yeah. That was honest.
Yeah, I love it. I love honesty. The last tip that I just have here is to reinforce growth behaviors. I became a much better teacher when I took a dog training class and started working with a dog trainer, because so many times our kids are demonstrating growth mindset. They're using good strategies that you want to encourage them. And so I've included a couple of notes here. If they already know what growth mindset is, and you hear them say something like not yet, you can point out that was a good example of a growth mindset. I often did this with students, or always do this with students, but definitely do it with with my younger kids and all the way up, is like pause to help them see how far they've grown, because oftentimes people get stuck into a fixed mindset, and you're not always in a growth mindset or always in a fixed mindset. It's a continuum. But if you have your kids and they're getting frustrated with whatever that assignment is, you can really pause and ask them, like, let's figure out, what did you know about this subject 3 weeks ago? What did you learn about this subject last year? And then let's look at how far you've grown and how did you get there? What strategies did you use? And let's mark that progress. So I've included that as well. Just the notes about encouraging them, like you're working hard and it shows, encouraging the perseverance and persistence. Like, I noticed you continued working on that task even when you got frustrated. These are the kinds of messages that some of your teens might ignore, but I promise you, as somebody who spent 15 years in a college classroom, they pay attention to this and they notice this. And sometimes there is that matter of like, this is my parent. They're supposed to say that I'm awesome at this. And that's why I think if you can really start to break down about like what you're praising and what you're celebrating, it can do a bunch of wonders and great work for your children, and both for yourself too, in terms of reducing the anxiety. So
Yeah.
this is a quick little handout, and I'm going to stop sharing the screen. I've given you the link, but this way, I have wonderful panelists that can help guide our next topic.
Well, so that gives us a great growth mindset. And to kind of segue us into the next part, I was going to talk about how I kind of said, I felt kind of like I was floating through the world because I feel like when you can't really do much, I think you just get complacent and you kind of live every day because you're at home and you can't go anywhere and you can't do anything. And every day just sort of runs into the next. And my husband owns a company and he has a sales coach he meets with all the time. And he invited our entire family to come. It was online to this sales meeting, and it featured Rudy from the movie Rudy. And I was like, oh, this is going to be horrible. Like, it's a business meeting. And it really like jump started me because it made me evaluate, like, what do I want? What goals even just for my family or for my kids, like identifying, and from a positive mindset, what do you want? And then figuring out how to, like, where are you now? And what would a 10 in that area look like for you? And I started deciding, oh, I want to do this. And oh, I want to do that. And it started filling, okay, since I want to do this, I have to do this every day. And so that was the second part of this that we had all agreed on, like setting goals. But it has to be from this, Jill, what you're talking about, from this positive mindset, so that you are, I think, and some of them, a couple of them were like, what's big? Like, I want to build a hospital, or I want to, like, what are your big goals? And really put some of them out there. But some of them are just like, we talked about like the normal New Year's goals, Stace and Joy and I, like, oh, I want to lose weight. Well, no, you can't just say, I want to lose weight. I want to do this and I'm going to eat, more vegetables, or you have to do specific goals. And so we wanted to be successful at that. So how do we do that, Jill?
So I loved listening, and I've been privileged to get to hear a little bit more about this talk, because this is what, when I work with individuals, we start with I ask them, what does thriving look like for them? And so it is, what is that big vision for you folks, for the individuals? And then we boil it down and start saying, like, these are the 3 words, and we use those as the correct, as the kind of the compass points, if you will, so that they can use to identify direction.
I have a word.
Right. And so that is, of course, January is a great time to ask that. And so in the meeting, as I understand, they talked about another one of my favorite tools, which are SMART goals. And SMART goals are specific, measurable, attractive, realistic, and time-bound goals. And when I work with individuals who are stuck, the first things I usually teach them how to do to help them get unstuck, again, I like to start with that visualization, and then we do what Angela described, which is reverse planning. Like, this is where I want to be, and what can I do to take those steps to get there? And so January is a great time to learn about SMART goals. And if you've ever worked in a gym setting or been in a gym setting, oftentimes that's where SMART goals are used. They're often used in a business setting as well. In fact, I first learned about it by seeing a piece of paper when I was working out one day. And so what I've done for you folks is create another tool that I'm going to put right here in the chat that you can reference. They're going to be open after our sessions for sure, but it's something I call a SMART goal creator. And the reason that I use it is because I love getting help. I like to think of myself, sometimes I'm the sage on the stage, sometimes I'm the guide by the side, and sometimes I'm the coach in the corner. And so this SMART goal creator that I have made for you, and you can share it with your kids, you can share it with anybody you want to, is designed just to help you take a general goal. If your goal is, for instance, to lose weight, and try to make it more specific. So more specific, more measurable. So, like, I'm trying to lose 5 pounds by February 15th, and help to make it a little bit more attractive or appealing to you, a little bit more realistic. Like, may not be able to lose 15 pounds. The average recommendation I know is like 1 to 2 pounds a week. So trying to lose 30 may not be terribly sustainable or possible for you. And then that time-bound element is going to be putting some sort of a window. So I'm just going to walk you through here very quickly. You don't have to include your real email address. You can use the SMART Goal Creator and never hit submit. But for those of you who would like to hit submit, it helps me with my research and helps me to make my tools better. That would be awesome. But what you'll see here is I've just gone through each of the steps and given a little bit more detail about what does it mean to be a specific goal, and then some examples that you'll watch me walk through and develop as we go through the different creator. This is something that I've taught to college freshmen, so slightly older than your students, but the youngest ones are usually 17 years old. And it's just a way for folks to be able to say, like, take something that's huge and, like starting a hospital, they started somewhere. Like, what are some of these smaller pieces, smaller bites that we can take? And so I've just made these different questions to walk you right through it. It's 5 steps. Some of the questions have some like subcategories because, again, like, my assumption is that folks are doing this on their own, but you'll see I've put my email address all over the form. So if you want to reach out to me and get some feedback, or you have maybe your kids need a little help, this is really making good goals, making SMART goals, goals that are attractive to you that you can achieve, is really a game changer in terms of reducing stress, because you're not setting yourself up to fail, you're setting yourself up to thrive. And again, it's also contributing to the growth mindset because you're taking little chunks that build up. And I tell you, all of the research about human development and about goal achievement says that if we can start making these small steps, we start believing in ourselves more, we start taking greater risks, and we make bigger accomplishments. And a lot of times what I find is the people I work with are just so kind of beaten down by the failed experiments. And part of it is they just don't know how to make good goals and to move them on their progress. And so it's not their fault. It's just, an absence of information. And so this tool is something that you folks can use. You can share with your kids, you can share with other people, but just to help you narrow things down and make things a little bit more achievable for you.
So just to recap, because that was a lot of stuff. It was a lot. So first step to lasting change is to have a vision. So where you want to go, what you want to do, kind of is big picture. And you said like come up with like 3 words.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So that was a side note, but yes, that is what I do. Um, I have you. I take a few minutes and think about what does thriving look like for you, and then I boil it down to 3 words.
Okay.
So for me, it's positive, it's energized, and it's connected. And those I then move forward. Sorry, I dropped a little something else that was unplanned, but yeah, you can.
So like for instance, you said to feel connected.
Mhm.
So just give them an idea of like, so that's really vague. And to me, so like, and if you don't mind sharing, you can make up something too, if you don't want to tell. Like,
I'm an open book. Yes.
like, how do you, so that's pretty broad. So where do you go after that? Like, I want to feel connected. So how do you break that down?
Okay, so I want you to think of a triangle with the biggest part up on the top and the point at the bottom. So what I do is I start with that ideal, and then I start to narrow that funnel down. So for me, connected is one of my thriving words. For me, it means connection to myself and connection to others. And so what then I next do is move down a little bit further, and this is where SMART goals kind of come here. So growth mindset is at the top of the pyramid and SMART goals come at the bottom. But I'll ask, what can I do to feel more connected? And I try and encourage people to think of things that they can do in under 5 minutes to get whatever that feeling is or that adjective that they've chosen. So for me, it is talking to people. I use a Marco Polo app. I don't know if you folks are familiar with that. I encourage a lot of the people I work with to use. You can send video messages to different individuals. I know WhatsApp has it, Voxer has it. It's just something that I use both prior to COVID and for sure during COVID to create these kinds of connections that I wasn't getting before. And I should add, I am clearly an extrovert and I've been working from home for 3 years. So I've had the isolation experience, the work from home experience. I got to do that 3 years ago. And so COVID, I've been able to be pretty resilient in the COVID experience, but reaching out and being able to connect with these different people via apps, setting up phone calls, setting up video chats is one way that I have done this. Another aspect of connected for me is also meditation. So that allows me to connect to myself. I'm a daily journaler. So every day I do, you can see I've got like a ton of little tools and acronyms, but
So you
yeah,
identify those
yeah.
ways to do it, but then how, okay, so then after that, how do you in practice make yourself do those things every day?
Yes. So you folks are getting the whole overview. So next I actually look at my schedule and I build these little elements into my schedule. So I'm a time management person, like huge about managing my time, energy, and talents. So I have a bunch of materials that I share and that I use to try and cut out the garbage that is not allowing me to work towards my goals, and also to work smarter, not harder on the stuff I can't cut out, so that I can build into my schedule every day something that fills one of those buckets. And it may not be every single bucket every day, but it's something that allows me to say, like, I'm going to take 5 minutes away from Facebook so that I can, which Facebook is a way to feel connected for many people.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm in a bunch of groups and I provide advice and ask questions, and that's a connection tool for me. But I might take 5 minutes less on Facebook or playing Sudoku or something on my phone in order to be able to, do some stretching or do some breathing. Or I'm a big fan of sleep. So I have timers set on my phone so it does not disturb me after a certain time so that I get sleep. So it is. And I know this is like such a huge, I taught a 14-week long class of this with college students. So I know that there's a lot of information, but it's just about figuring out these small pieces that make big differences for you. And then kind of making these smarter strategies, reaching out for help in order to put them into practice.
And so next, we had talked about like helping apply this to your kids. Cause I think, well, and I do want to say really quickly, like, I really wanted to talk to our parents
Mhm.
about doing this for yourself first, because we always say, like, put the oxygen mask on on yourself before you put it on your child. And I just feel like if you are in a great place, not only do you understand it more, but I think it helps you to help your kids. So I think the next step, like, how do we apply this, modeling it? I think you had that really great story. And like how, I have one he's not real motivated to do some stuff like this. How do you begin
So beginning when are you asking how do I begin with
with
my
the kid?
child?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am 100% in, awe and admiration of parents of teenagers. Mine are coming up the pipeline, but not quite there. Autonomy is so important. So autonomy is the sense of control and self-direction. And so I work with a lot of unmotivated individuals. Again, definitely in that age range, just slightly older than the majority of your kids, but I'm reaching out to this group because I was like, I would love to be able to work with your kids. And it's really about helping them figure out what it is that they want. So, my underlying theme is helping people lead more balanced, meaningful, and authentic lives. And the root of that is authenticity, it's auth itself. And so, it's really incredible. I do this activity with my students where I ask them, what are you supposed to want? In regards to we go through personal life, their academic life, their professional life, and their social and relational life. And then I ask them, what do you actually want? And we compare the two. And it's really interesting to see, like, well, my parents want me to be, a physician or to do this, but I really want to do this. And once we're able to figure out what it is that's like tapping inside them, then I help them work with it. But for parents, you certainly can, is just kind of figure out, like, what does motivate your son? Is it creativity? Is it, maybe he's really into video games, which is not uncommon at that
Good
age.
guess. Good guess. How did you know?
Yeah, right. Well, what is it? I mean, and so, what is it about the video games? Is it the interaction with other people? Because I know, like, Fortnite, my kids love to play Fortnite, and their dad will play and, monitor the chat. But Fortnite right now is giving them an outlet for talking to other kids that they're not getting in their schools. And so for them, like, they're motivated by being able to play Fortnite. So, like, we have guidelines in our house where these are the things that have to be done before tablet time can take place. And so it's amazing how fast an 8 and 9-year-old can clean their bedroom when they want to be able to go onto, they're on, it's Roblox, which is for younger kids. But it's easier for them, for us to manage, what we need and want them to do and what they need and want them to do when we're able to figure out what it is that motivates them. And some of it's internal and some of it's external, for sure. And so, there's some conversations in the chat that I missed.
Oh no, I wrote.
Oh, okay, super.
Oh no, someone did.
Oh yeah, have you read the book One Word That Will Change Your Life? Any comments in this? Oh, I have not. I'm going to write it down in my notes. I got a little notepad over here.
One word that will change your life.
Yeah, Libby, now you got to tell us, what is that word?
She can't speak to us. I have to go find her and hold on.
Did she type it?
Libby, you can speak. Wait, let me She was in her car before though. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, well then I don't want to encourage texting and driving. I'm going to Google it.
Hey, Libby.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right. So no, I just wondered, at work, we've been talking about this, so we're all going to read it. It's by a gentleman named John Gordon, John spelled Jon. And that's kind of what we're doing as our focus is to take, and it's not just the word, it's the word you select.
Okay.
Word that will change your life, and then you focus on that one word all year. So, and it's how, whatever that word might be. And you've used a lot of great words tonight, but it's to kind of get rid of the clutter, get rid of the too much is going on, the overwhelming that we have, and just focus on one thing. So if it's being respectful, and then you focus on how do I be a much more respectful person or happier person or just better in general, whatever that one word is to you, you engage that word and you live it. So I think that's it. So we're all reading that at work, actually.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Yeah, that is a great recommendation. And that's part of, this is like the hard part when I was talking with Angela. It's like there's so many different strategies because people's needs are just different. And so, as much as you can to figure out what is your one word. I mean, for me, it's connection, which is what communication is. I've dedicated my life to studying it, to practicing it, to trying to help folks. And so, yeah, just cutting out the muck as much as possible. But it's easy to say and it's hard to do. And that's where I think all of these other strategies come into play. And so for those of you who are like, oh my gosh, this person is talking like really fast and high energy, part of it is just centering ourselves and then figuring out what's your word or what's your vision, and then developing the strategies and tools to pursue that vision, but also how to cut out all the other stuff. Because that's hard when you're a parent. That's hard when you're juggling, parenting responsibilities as well as work responsibilities and life responsibilities and all. And we're in a pandemic. So yes.
Yeah.
Could I just comment on what Libby had to share? We talked about this before with exercises. When we were on holiday in December, we were in a mixed table of adults and students and college students, young adults. And my friend Suzanne said, let's go around the table. And it was a great exercise. And give me your theme. 2021 is your year of what? What is your theme? What do you? So everyone kind of went around. Someone said, a high school student said happiness. And then someone else said confidence. Another one said organization. And mine was initially to be of service or to be of light for others. And then I think as we were talking more, it was kind of like, what is my default word? And it turned to trust. So for me, that is kind of helping shape where I'm at. Whenever I feel heaviness, I go to my default word, which is trust. Trust where you are, trust the process, trust what's coming ahead. And it just brings me a sense of calm, a sense of peace. So I think that goes along the lines, of what's your one word. To me, it's just a default word that kind of flips a switch.
Do you mind? Can you tell us how, like, what was your thought process and how you, because I feel like it could be overwhelming to define, like, what is your word? Do you have any tips of how you came to that?
Me, Angela? Oh, I don't know.
Sorry.
I think the first two are more goals, like to be of service and be light to others, is that's what I want to do and be every day. So my mom lives with me, so that's how I want to go through my day. But I needed something more internally to keep me centered. Or if I start to veer off, or if I start to, what is something positive that will click right when I say it. And it was kind of this word that I've been hearing just in different conversations that it just made so much sense to me. So again, it could be an action word, like a doing word that helps you become who you want to be, but it could also be a word that adjusts or shifts your mental space, if that makes sense,
Awesome. And you know what that reminded me of? That we wanted to say, the more you share your dreams and goals, the more the world conspires to help you. And so, like, when you're saying, I'm talking to this person, I'm talking to that person, and I feel like not only for ourselves, but I find this with my kids, especially, I'll say, well, have you told anybody that you really want to do that? And they'll be like, oh, of course I didn't. And I'll be like, but do you know that so-and-so's dad is this, and like, and I, they get embarrassed and they don't want to share, but I feel like a component, you were sitting around a table with friends, with some of their kids. Like, I feel like the more you share it and get feedback and help, I feel like that really helps to keep you moving in a, not only, and also to define, to get to that definition, but also to keep moving in that positive direction. So
right.
I like that, Joy.
I think the more you talk and hear yourself say the words, it helps you figure out what are your convictions, or you think that this is one of your philosophies or mantras. And once you say it, you might have a different reaction once the energy is out there, or once the word is out there, or once it's taken in by, the other party you're talking to.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of this, I don't know if it's collaboration, but just once you release those words, like you said, it kind of starts to formulate, and just to hear yourself say it, either strengthen a conviction or change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're at 8:06. We don't like to keep everybody super late, but if anybody wants to, stay and or has questions, we'll still be here. But if you need to go, we understand. We did want to talk about, well, Jill has given us so many great tools. So I hope everyone has gotten that stuff out of the chat, because we'll post it on our Facebook, and we can email it, right? Well, Jill can give it to us, and Joy can send it out on our email too. So there were 3 strategies that I really wanted to share in conjunction with all of this, because I feel like, and we kind of touched on them, but I think this really brings it together. And I think, Jill, you said this before about creating behaviors. So like, list your 3 behaviors that will help you achieve your goals. So the things that I think like you said, I need connection. And I know my, like, being on Facebook, that for me could that be, some people think it's positive, that gives them connection. So is that a behavior, or is being on Facebook really bad for you? So listing your behaviors that are positive. And then I love this one, finding the enemy. So like, identify your enemies so you can conquer them. So like, doing those lists and keeping them. And then what motivates you? What's your fuel? I love that one. Like, what really powers you and keeps you going? So those were my three things that I do to help kind of define all of this. And I talk to my husband and friends, but like, you got to set yourself up for success, right? So Jill, we'd love to hear, I know you were going to offer, I can't get you off of, there you go. Oh, what happened?
We both unmuted me.
So you were going to offer, if people need or want, this is a taste of it. I mean, if you need further help, and they want to do more work with this, what can they do?
So I miss being with students, to be honest with you. I miss being with the young people, and I'm new to the parenting world, but realizing that so much of the stuff that I've been working with adult learners and college students is really relevant in a variety of perspectives. So I'd mentioned to Angela, like, I do a lot of coaching. The majority of my time I spend coaching physicians, but I know that there is a clear need. There's a lot of parents. I'm in a bunch of parenting groups online on Facebook. That, again, part of that, it's a good motivator for me. Sometimes it's a bad. But if your kids need somebody to talk to, we can just have a conversation, see if it's a good fit. What oftentimes happens is I'm a real mediator. So connection and connector is really also in my DNA. I would argue, to Carol Dweck, I was born this way. But I, have this different perspective of being both an educator and a lifelong learner, because I was in school since I was 3, so like 30 years of school, but also being able to help with bridging some of those gaps. So as you've heard, like, rattling off a variety of tools, I have a ton of tools that if you want to chat with me and figure out if there's stuff that could work, or you want your kids somebody to talk to, I'm a really great mediator and would be happy to help with that. I'm, trying to make the switch into working again with some young people, because I see the need is so high. And I know with remote learning, a lot of them are afraid of speaking up. are afraid of sharing their goals because they don't want to be laughed at. And so, what's tied in with my whole process is a sense of empowerment and self-efficacy. And so if you've got a kid, you've got a child that's, struggling for a variety of ways, sometimes they just don't have the vocabulary to talk about that. I clearly talk a lot. We eventually figure out what's usually going on. And so if you are interested or you want to chat yourself, like you're helping me too, we can talk about, perhaps doing some collaboration if you want some coaching, or if you folks are interested in doing a larger group. I pitched a lot of things to Angela because I was like, if parents just want a place to come together, we can create a community. I don't have to, teach. I can definitely just help facilitate and then just plug in some of this information, because I've spent the last 10 years studying this topic in particular. And it just feels like such a waste to be working with the limited audiences, the awesome limited audiences, but the limited audience that I have. So if you have any interest or you have a need, or, I understand there's a lot of academic coaches around that are fully booked. If you have kids that are just like looking for somebody to talk to, I'm not a therapist and I don't claim to be. I'm a good facilitator that gets people into therapy. But if you've just got some kids that are just frustrated, or your own, yourself, and just trying to figure out persuasion, that's actually what my PhD is in. It's in rhetoric, it's in persuasion. I can help you to help them, to help yourself, get from this point to get to this point, and of course, an ethical, but also non-judgmental and compassionate way. So I'm casting my net wide. That was my goal for 2021. I'm going to have a baby, my very first baby. So lots of things are changing for me, and I'm embracing change. And so if this is something that the community needs and wants, like, I'm happy to be of service, because that is the part. Impact is a high motivator for me, and I would love to hear more. So I'll put
So
my,
we
oh,
will
go ahead.
make all of your information
Super.
available.
Perfect.
Look at our Facebook page, look for your emails from Wildcat Health and Mental Wellness parents. We will put all of Jill's contact in there. I know I was really thrilled to find her, because I've had the pleasure of talking with her a few times, and I do know that a lot of parents have said to me, "Oh, my son needs help," or I know they're going to have trouble kind of getting back into the groove, or they're just struggling, and who could blame them? And so a lot of the people that are the normal people you would go to, you just can't even get in with anybody anymore because they're just booked. And so you are a wealth of information that I think, could really, really help a lot of parents and or kids. So let's, if anybody wants to reach out, like if you would prefer to do a group meeting with other parents where we can just talk, or if you want a one-on-one, you can reach out to Joy or Stacy or I, or just our email, and we can see, what transpires. But Jill, thank you so much for being here this evening. I feel more positive. I hope everyone does.
Thank you all so much for your time in this platform. And this energy, Angela can tell you, I bring it to all of the conversations, because I really, really believe in, people being able to learn, being able to grow, and just this idea that everybody can learn to thrive and really deserves to thrive. And I know that that's a message that we don't often hear right now in COVID. A lot of us are in survival mode or suffering mode or burnout mode. And so there's so many little tips and tricks that can be used, one trick at a time, to help people out. And so if this is a way I can be of service to the community, I would be more than happy to do that, because it helps me too, helps me thrive and grow. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you.